Okay, the people joining have slowed to a crawl here, so let's get started. First of all, thank you all for being here today. My name is Ben Lightburn. I'm CEO and co-founder of Filament Health. With me here in the room, we have Anna Corden to my left. She's our Director of Communications. We have Ryan Moss beside me here, our Chief Science Officer, and then to my right, we have Andrea Chayana. Also various team members and board members joining us virtually. We really appreciate everyone taking their time out of their day to be with us. Those of you phoning in from different time zones, etc., to be with us in lovely, smoky Burnaby. Quick overview of today's agenda. After brief introductory remarks, which you're now receiving, we're going to go into a pre-recorded video. And from there, we will flow into a question and answer period. We're going to do the Q&A via the internal Q&A functionality of Google Meets. And that functionality is hiding on your screen below the bottom right button that has a little square, circle, and triangle. And so we did this deliberately to make it challenging for you so that only the brightest and best amongst you will get a chance to ask a question. So while the video is playing, please put your questions into that question and answer functionality. We've even disabled the chat to force you to actually do it that way. And with that, I should note also that the presentation is being recorded and will be made available to those that are interested after the presentation. So once again, thank you for your time. And we'll jump in right now.
I'm Ben Lightburn, the CEO and co-founder of Filament Health. Filament Health is a clinical stage natural psychedelic drug development company. In other words, we create drug candidates from psychedelic plants and fungi like magic mushrooms and ayahuasca. Our goal is to help solve the mental health crisis by unlocking the healing power of natural psychedelic medicines. With millions of potential patients, the psychedelics industry is estimated to be worth $10 billion a year by 2027. We believe natural psychedelics, and specifically Filament's drug candidates, could help millions of people suffering from treatable illnesses. We are focused on three core strategies. 1. Advancing our internal psilocin drug development, which we believe may have therapeutic advantages versus psilocybin. 2. Expanding our current and future revenue pipeline while increasing our exposure to different health indications through third-party licensing partnerships. 3. Establishing distribution footholds in non-pharmaceutical regulated markets that are undergoing changes, including through Canada's Special Access Program and the Oregon market. Filament Health is making impressive progress. In July, we began dosing in the first FDA-approved clinical trial of natural psychedelic drug candidates in partnership with the Translational Psychedelic Research Program at the University of California, San Francisco. This groundbreaking trial represents several industry firsts, including being the first FDA-authorized trial that has used standardized natural psychedelic compounds from nature rather than synthetic products created in the lab. It's also the first time psilocin, rather than psilocybin, has ever been directly administered. Why does this matter? For several reasons. Consumers prefer natural products, so by creating a natural psychedelic drug, we hope to reach more people in need. There's also the possibility of the Entourage Effect, a phenomenon whereby compounds in the magic mushroom beyond psilocybin work together with psilocybin to create a greater effect. This isn't possible with a synthetic drug that only contains psilocybin. The clinical trial at Ucsf is also the first time that psilocin has been directly administered. Most people don't realize that psilocybin is not bioactive in the human body. It must turn into psilocin before any hallucinogenic effects are felt. Until now, all research has used psilocybin rather than psilocin, even though the direct administration of psilocin could yield important benefits like faster onset time, fewer side effects, and greater consistency. In addition to our own clinical program, we are developing a large partner network. There is a supply deficiency in the psychedelic industry, and there are few licensed producers of quality GMP drug candidates, even fewer of which hold strong IP protection. This has led to strong demand for Filament's drug candidates, resulting in 5 revenue-generating supply agreements so far this year. For example, in August, our partner Atma Journey Centers dosed 14 participants with our natural psilocybin, and all of the participants reported a positive experience with our drug candidate. Another partner of ours, Science Group, recently achieved approval from the UK government to administer our psilocybin candidate in a phase 2 trial investigating end-of-life depression and anxiety. The key thing to understand about our growing partnership network is that Filament has the ability to generate revenue while actively helping those in need, all at a time when many companies aren't able to supply their own trials, let alone those of others, nationally and internationally. Furthermore, many of the leading academic research organizations globally are continuing to ask Filament to supply study drugs, and we look forward to announcing more of these partnerships soon. In June, we announced a $2.5 million financing led by Negev Capital, a leading psychedelic fund, and Namex, a well-known medicinal mushroom manufacturer. To have both of these groups on our cap table speaks to our track record and will open many doors in the future. The financing was completed at a premium to our share price, at attractive terms, which minimized dilution to current shareholders while significantly increasing our runway. The investors and founders all signed significant voluntary lockup agreements. Both Negev and Namex are high-quality, long-term investors with industry expertise that will enhance Filament's strategic operations, particularly through the addition of various team members to our board and advisory council.
I'm Ryan Moss, Chief Scientific Officer at Filament Health. I lead research and development here at our Health Canada licensed GMP-compliant facility in Metro Vancouver. I'm proud of the incredible progress our team has made over the past 6 months. The Health Canada Special Access Program is a program which allows Canadian doctors to prescribe unapproved drugs to patients for emergency use. In June, we announced that a patient was given one of our drug candidates through the Special Access Program. Our SAP program has continued to grow and has allowed us to develop strong relationships with practitioners and to help their patients. The Oregon market represents another future opportunity for Filament. As of 2023, Oregon will allow access to psilocybin for psychedelic-assisted therapy. In other words, this is the first non-pharmaceutical psilocybin market with support from a governing body in North America. We expect to be an active participant. In any market where consumers have a choice, natural will be preferred over synthetic. Our team has made several trips to meet with Oregon-based businesses with whom we may partner to develop natural psilocybin products locally. Here at the lab, we have had a number of successes. My team and I have developed standardized ayahuasca for the first time, which we intend to enter into a clinical trial at the University of California, San Francisco in the near future. Ayahuasca presents an exciting opportunity for Filament. It is a great candidate for botanical drug because it is a combination of two very different plants that contain two very different but synergetic classes of compounds. Filament's ayahuasca botanical drug product is a highly complex mixture of natural products, and this complexity would be extremely difficult to emulate using synthetic compounds. The ayahuasca brew has been consumed for hundreds of years and extensively studied for decades. In order to make it a therapeutic option, standardization is necessary so that the exact same dose and mixture of compounds is given every single time, while staying as true to the original ayahuasca brew as possible. This is what our team has accomplished, and we believe standardized natural ayahuasca could treat a range of mental health conditions. In order to protect our innovations, we've continued to grow our patent family. We now have a total of 8 granted patents covering our natural extraction and standardization technology, 5 in Canada and 3 in the US. Our intellectual property success is remarkable. Filament has a 100% applied to issued patent success rate. The industry average is less than 50%. In layman's terms, we have never had a patent denied. The strength of our patent portfolio forms the basis of our licensing agreements with other parties and is a crucial component of revenue generation.
All of our exciting developments have not gone unnoticed. In the past 2 months alone, Filament has been featured in major press outlets like Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and on NPR. We are also building brand awareness by participating in high-profile industry events. I recently spoke at ICPR in Amsterdam, where other speakers included Paul Stamets and Rick Doblin. In September, Filament was the only drug development company invited to present at Horizons Northwest, one of the oldest and most prestigious psychedelics conferences. Next month, our team will present at the MJ Biz Psychedelics Forum in Las Vegas and be at Wonderland in Miami. We have also recently engaged Grit Capital, an investor advertising platform, to support our promotional efforts. It has been a difficult period for many small cap and biotech-focused public companies, and the psychedelic sector is in a very challenging place. Several psychedelic companies have recently folded, and several more will soon join them. Despite many positive milestones at Filament, we recognize that our stock performance is disappointing. Some of you have expressed dissatisfaction. This is a feeling we share, and it's always top of mind for us. There is no easy quick fix for this problem. We believe the best course of action is to continue to build significant long-term value through drug discovery, drug development, and revenue-generating licensing partnerships. We have built a great reputation in the industry as a company that says what it does and does what it says. Filament will be around in the long term to supply natural psychedelics through all legal pathways. With the increasing pace and scope of our activities, I've never been more proud of our team and their achievements. I remain as excited as ever to work tirelessly every day to build shareholder value and to further our mission to unlock the healing power of natural psychedelic medicines. Thank you.
All right, as the questions start coming in, I encourage everyone once again to enter their questions in the bottom right using the button with the square, triangle, and circle, and then click on Q&A to enter your questions. Anna's filtering through them, and so what do we got?
All right, okay, so our first question for you, Ben. Can you comment on Alberta's new regulations?
So last week or 2 weeks ago, Alberta announced psychedelic therapy regulations for the province. And while initially this did seem very, very exciting because it seemed as though Alberta was, leading out front on their way to legalize psychedelic therapy, it turns out that it is actually quite limited. Because there is no attached legal mechanism to actually provide psilocybin, psilocin, DMT, and mescaline. What those regulations do is regulate psychedelic therapy that is given alongside ketamine, which is currently legal because it can be prescribed off-label. It's normally used as an anesthetic. So we're going to need to work with the federal government, which is the entity responsible for regulating controlled substances and, in fact, deciding which drugs get approved. So it's with the federal government that will have to work to actually put in place a legal mechanism. So on one hand, it's exciting. It's showing that the provinces are looking at ways to get out in front of the issues of psychedelic therapy. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean that in January, at least as things currently stand, it does not mean that in January we will have legal psychedelic therapy with psilocybin in Alberta.
Okay, got it. Another question for you. What is Filament doing with ayahuasca?
Well, maybe I'll let Ryan talk about ayahuasca.
Yeah, so ayahuasca is a traditional brew from South America, and it is a combination of two separate plants. One is Banisteriopsis caapi, and the other one is Psychotria viridis. It contains DMT and a class of compounds called beta-carbolines. These compounds mix together and allow for a psychedelic experience to take place. It's considered fairly intense, and it's been done for hundreds of years in South America. We intend to source and create an extract. In fact, we already have created prototype extracts. And what we're doing right now is we're going through the process of getting all of the regulatory filings in place so that we can initiate a phase 1 study at UCSF in the future.
We're also working with indigenous groups on the ground, native populations in South America, in Peru, in order to collect sustainable sources of the supply of these raw materials. It's quite a bit different than magic mushrooms, which are growing over in a couple rooms away. These are native plants to South America with a lot of culture and history wrapped up in them. So we're making sure to develop sustainable sources of supply. We also have a pretty good reason to believe that the ayahuasca drug product might be better for certain indications than psilocybin and other psychedelics. So we'll be very excited to see what kinds of clinical results come out of future clinical trials employing the use of our standardized ayahuasca drug product.
Very exciting. We have another question. What do you estimate as the annual revenue potential in the Oregon market over the next 3 years?
So there's obviously a lot of interest in Oregon right now. Just for everyone's awareness, Oregon 2 years ago passed a ballot measure, which is in the process of implementing legal psilocybin in a state regulated framework, similar to what they have for cannabis. Beginning in January, it will be possible to apply, if things go according to plan, it'll be possible to apply for licenses to manufacture and distribute psilocybin. We've been following the rule-making process very closely. We've been in discussions with the state legislature, state legislators. We've also been talking to a number of different companies on the ground in Oregon State. We believe it makes much more sense to partner with existing manufacturing organizations and license them our technology so that they can manufacture the products essentially on our behalf and sell the products into the state market. Oregon, specifically in the current rules, has specifically prohibited synthetic psilocybin, which is great for us, obviously, because up till now, we think that we are still the only group ever to have produced a stable, standardized, natural extract of psilocybin due to the work of Ryan and his team here in the lab. So we think that our products will be highly desirable in Oregon because the choice will be between a highly standardized capsule, for example, ours, which contains 25 milligrams exactly of psilocybin, or people would have the choice to consume whole mushrooms or mushroom powder, which, as we know, are highly variable. The exact revenue potential of the Oregon market, it'd be very hard to comment on because we have no idea how many licenses they're going to give out. We have no idea how many patients will be processed through the market. But over time, we do expect it to be significant. Our plan, again, which leading to our plan of working with existing manufacturers in companies that don't currently make psilocybin, but make other similar products, working with them in order to minimize CapEx because of the uncertainty of the size of the potential market. One thing that is very important about the Oregon market, though, is that it will serve as a kind of bellwether for all these other states and perhaps provinces as well. One of the unique aspects of Oregon is that it's an entirely non-medical market. So there's no participation of medical professionals at all in this market, which is contrasting to an FDA-approved pathway or even to the proposed pathway in Alberta, which requires medical professionals, in fact, psychiatrists, to be in charge. I just saw a question pop up about microdosing?
Yes, so it says, does Oregon allow for microdose type products?
So microdosing is permitted in Oregon, except it's not permitted to take the psilocybin with you away from the service center. So in Oregon, all of the psilocybin must be consumed at a licensed service center under the supervision of a licensed facilitator. So while the facilitator could give you a 1 milligram capsule, you still would have to stay under observation for a given time to make sure that you're not under the influence and then drive away. So it's something that has raised a lot of controversy in Oregon. At this conference I was at in Portland a few weeks ago, Paul Stamets made his opinion very clear that he was very much against this exclusion of microdosing. But I think the Oregon rules are intended to be quite conservative to begin with, for obvious reasons, right? They're the first ones. And so they're being very cautious in a lot of their different approaches, which includes not letting people take their psychedelics home with them, for instance.
Okay. Following on that, the question was, what will be the requirements to be a Filament Health licensee in Oregon?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Licensees that we're currently evaluating, we evaluate them according to their current facilities, right? What kinds of buildings and equipment do they have? What sort of staff do they have? What sort of analytical equipment do they have? How sophisticated is their level of GMP manufacturing? What sorts of solvents can they process with? Lots of different, basically, how much do we think, how confident are we that they can make products up to our exacting standards? So those are kind of the main requirements. And how successful do we think they will be at selling into the Oregon market?
Shifting slightly, Ryan, can you please give a quick overview on the current status of the clinical studies at UCSF?
Yeah, so we do have our phase 1 study with Josh Woolley's team at UCSF. It is currently recruiting and dosing, and we expect to have some preliminary results in the second half of 2023.
And to reiterate, what's so special about that trial is it's actually the very first time that naturally derived psychedelic drug candidates have been employed in any clinical trial. And perhaps more excitingly, it's the first time that psilocin, which is the active form of psilocybin, is being investigated clinically. We're the only group still, we believe, to get psilocin into a clinical trial in a stable and standardized form. And because it's the active form of psilocybin, we think that it may yield several important clinical benefits: faster onset time, fewer side effects, and more consistent dosing. So we're very, very excited about this, about our psilocin drug candidate, and also about the results of this trial overall.
All right. Can you tell us what is your plan for countering patent infringers and offshore IP theft?
Well, we obviously have quite a robust IP portfolio at this time. We haven't yet had any challenges or any controversy in that regard. As Ryan mentioned in the video, our success rate so far is 100% with respect to issued claims over pending applications. One of the key things in order to defend any of these kind of challenges in the future will be to have sufficient financial resources to fight one of these patent fights, which, as one of the more well-funded companies at this current time, we think would put us in a pretty advantageous position. I would also note that the vast majority of psychedelic development right now is in synthetic and relating to synthetic IP. So the number of groups that would be out there potentially willing to challenge our position would be quite limited. In addition, I would point to our U.S. Patent Counsel, Wilson Sonsini. They are one of the strongest and most highly respected biotech patent firms in the United States. So I think having had them in the drafting process, as well having them in the eventual defense process, if should anything ever come to that, I think would put us in a pretty strong position.
Great. What are some of the key milestones you're looking to hit over the next 12 months?
So as Ryan mentioned, over the next 12 months, we should have some preliminary data from our phase 1 trial. So that should be quite exciting. In addition, we'll hope to have some news about getting our ayahuasca drug candidate into a clinical trial, probably at UCSF, along with the psilocin clinical trial. In addition, we have several more licensing deals under negotiation. So we would hope to announce more revenue-generating partnerships in the coming few months. And alongside of those, milestones from our existing licensing partnerships as they continue through their clinical development pathway. As an example, Science Group recently got approval to use our drug in their clinical trials in the United Kingdom for palliative care. Every time they do some sort of advancement, and I see Neil, CEO of Science, actually on the call, every time that they make an advancement through their clinical program, we very gratefully receive a milestone payment from them. In addition, Andre has been very, very busy working on many new partnerships, both commercial ones, as I alluded to, but in addition, many of the leading academic groups in the world have been reaching out to us to have our psilocybin drug candidate in their clinical trials. So we hope to have more announcements in that regard as well in the next little while.
Fantastic. And that looks like all the questions we have. So there aren't any others.
We do obviously want to make a comment. As I alluded to in the video, our share price performance is, obviously not something that we're proud of. It doesn't necessarily give us much comfort that we're not alone in a troubled industry. There are several other small cap psychedelics companies that are having real trouble. Some have folded. A few more will fold soon. And the larger cap psychedelics companies are struggling probably even more at between 5 to 20% of their all-time highs. So we understand that many people are frustrated, and many people have understandably voiced that concern. We're doing everything we can to address this problem, but there is no easy fix. We think that while the market is going through such a tough period, we think it's a great time to make progress, and hopefully from today you've gotten a good sense of all the progress that's being made internally here at Filament. I'd also like to say that touch on the financing that we concluded over the summer. We were able to attract investment from a couple of leading groups who are, I believe, both on the call today, Negev Capital and Namex. Negev Capital is one of the leading, if not the leading, psychedelic investment fund, and obviously they were very attracted by the story and came in with an investment priced above our free trading price. And Namex, who also participated in that financing, is one of the world's leading companies making functional mushroom extract. So I think the caliber of these two investors who have joined both the board and the advisory council speaks to the strength of the story that we have here at Filament, and through their partnership, we hope to achieve even more in the future.
Great. We do have one more question, which I'll ask you. Are you planning on distributing or providing your psilocybin drug candidate outside of the US, either via special access program or multi-center study?
Yes, and the answer to that question is we currently are distributing our product especially in Canada via the Special Access Program. The Special Access Program is a program here in Canada that allows patients who are in dire need on account of a serious or life-threatening condition to request access to experimental drugs that have not yet been approved. And since our psilocybin drug candidate is in multiple Health Canada clinical trials, it qualifies for the Special Access Program. I think we've now given our psilocybin drug candidate 15 or 20 times to patients all across Canada, and the reports have been very good. We've been providing the drug free of charge as a way of giving back to the community, and of course these are patients that are in dire need, many of who are unfortunately quite literally on death's door. So it's been both a very interesting experience to be part of the very beginnings of a psilocybin regulated market here in Canada, as well as sort of, I think, gratifying for myself and the team. I saw one question pop up about Europe. Our drug is destined to go into multiple clinical trials in Europe in the coming months. We have had some conversations about expanded access or special access in Europe as well. It's been a little bit, Europe was obviously a little bit further along the roadmap than Canada, so they're still a little bit earlier in terms of comfort with our natural product. But as more of these academic trial sites in Europe get comfort with our product, but also with our ability to ship product to the EU, to get it released for use in clinical trials, for use in expanded access, I think we will see some expanded access dosings in Europe, and it should be said other jurisdictions as well in all around the world. There's been a lot of interest in our drug through various special access schemes. We get inundated on a daily basis with requests for our drug or for requests to participate in a clinical trial, really speaking to the great need for these substances to get out into the world.
Great. Okay, that's all we have for questions.
So unless there's any other last minute questions filtering in through the Q&A functionality, now's your very last chance. I'd like to take a second again to thank everybody here, especially our board of directors, those members that are present, and the other Filament team members calling in. We're very excited about Filament. Hopefully you can get a sense of our excitement here. We think that we're executing on our mission to unlock the healing power of natural psychedelics. So thank you everyone for your time, and please be in touch if you have any further questions.